Nice to see you guys.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you so much for attending our workshop. How are you all doing today?
Great, thank you.
So we are from We Fill in the Blank. We are a nonpartisan youth organization at Coronado High School. We were founded officially 5 years ago in 2012 when a group of about 5 or 6 students believed that the youth had a moral obligation to participate in politics in their community. So the history behind our name is we are filling in the blank. The youth are the untapped resource in this community and all over the world. We are filling in the blank of political apathy in order to create a more politically aware community. So here you see our mission statement, an untapped resource in modern politics, the high school student. So there's some kind of negative stereotypes about our generation and the youth coming up. We're sort of viewed as very self-obsessed or not wanting to engage. But the truth is we don't have the opportunity to engage. That's the key thing, giving the youth the opportunity because we care, we do. That's filling in the gap of political apathy. So one of the key things is working with the community, working with you all in order to become more politically aware and educate the general population, including youth and adults. So we believe, unlike the right to vote, which is granted at 18, you don't just become politically aware. It takes years of knowledge, of acquisition, building on your foundation to become politically aware and make those well-informed decisions when you get older. So from starting at a younger age in terms of being more politically aware, as an adult, you'll be more well-informed to make those decisions. We are filling in that blank, that random gap that no one else is touching. We are the untapped resource. So we are pretty well known for our debates, and I'm just going to talk about a few. We hosted a political forum in 2010 with Bill White, and that legitimized us as a credible youth organization. And in 2012, when we hosted the congressional primary, our debate was actually quoted in several publications, including the El Paso Times and the Huffington Post. You'll see down here the two methods, Socratic method and traditional debate. So we posted a few just traditional debates, but recently we've been utilizing the Socratic method. So the Socratic method is very unique in that it doesn't just touch on the general surface area, the general scratching the surface of politicians. We are digging deep. We are getting down to the issues, their philosophy for making these decisions. What do they want to change? Why do they want to change it? We're getting past the fluff, getting past the sound bites, and we're getting to the real nitty-gritty content. So we hope that over the years, we'll be able to revolutionize this method in order to create more argumentative, more insightful debates. So these are some pictures from our debates in the past 5 or 6 years. So we get a pretty large attendance, over 600 people have attended our debates.
And we'd love to see your neighborhoods come out too, so absolutely let them know and we'll let you know what you're having this year.
Because the whole point of this organization is not just educating you, but interacting with you all, the neighborhood association. So we conducted 2 exit polls, the 2012 congressional primary and in the 26th presidential election. And in our most recent one, we had over 178 students out during the school day on election day at over 85 locations in El Paso. So we were able to gather some pretty impressive data that Sheridan will share.
Yeah, so we actually approached in total 5,892 people in the El Paso community on early voting days and on election day, as well as completed 4,631 ballots. So the most important data we got from that, and what we think is going to be most useful to you all, is the direction. So the questions we asked were, or the most important ones we feel that we asked were, how do you feel in general the United States is going in the right direction or the wrong direction? And also, in general, do you feel like El Paso is going in the right direction or wrong direction? So what we saw basically is that El Paso is far more optimistic. For example, nationally, 70% of people think the nation is going in the wrong direction, whereas in El Paso, only 42%, 45% think that a nation's going in the right direction. Also, 63% of El Pasoans, from the sample that we pulled, believe that El Paso is going in the right direction, and only 22% believed it was wrong. So what this shows is that the community is really optimistic and really willing to improve the community and willing to incite change, and that's going to be really useful for you guys, because you're going to be able to get a little bit more a better gauge of how best to talk to the community. As you can see, most of them do already think that we are going in the right direction. Also, as far as our polling, we'd love to work with you on one. For example, if you guys need any information done in your neighborhood, if you want to gather information, we're working on setting up a polling center so that we can start doing polls for other organizations. So if you'd be interested in that, absolutely.
I have a question for you. What are the schools are you working with other than just Coronado High School at the moment?
Right now for polling and things like that, it's a pretty localized organization, but we'd like to branch out a little bit. But as far as Border Eyes, this past year we branched out to schools in Juarez, in Las Cruces, throughout El Paso. So it's kind of on a project-to-project basis, but as a whole, we'd like to branch out a little bit more. So also, if any of you know students in your communities who are interested in possibly starting something like this, let us know.
How are you able to offset the liberal agenda?
We're actually a nonpartisan organization, so we don't really advocate for any particular position. We advocate for people to act in their own self-interest.
And how do you, so do you stand for traditional family values?
We don't have a position on that. Yes.
Could I make contact with your sponsor so that we can get Burgess engaged with that as well?
Absolutely. We'll leave you some contact information.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And also, now that you've brought up Burgess, we actually worked with that school from one of our projects, the teleconference with Congressman O'Rourke, and they actually had the opportunity to ask him questions and engage in the political process. So, yeah, they have actually become involved, but we'd be happy to give you our contact
Awesome.
information to work together.
Thank you.
on that. Just a little bit more about our data. In 2012, we received a little bit of backlash for our exit poll data because some people were saying that it wasn't the youth's place to engage and influence. They accused us of influencing the election, but really we're just trying to analyze data and voter apathy in the El Paso community. And it turns out our data turned to be the most accurate in the region. So it's even been quoted in the El Paso Times, The Economist, and the Huffington Post.
And according to who?
Because
According to who? What was your source?
sorry,
What was your source to accuracy?
The
actual
Times,
The Economist? No, before, no. What was your
Because
data?
compared with the election results and our polling, it was to gauge
The actual election results.
Okay. But you said your accuracy.
it was pretty
Right.
accurate to the results of the election. Because we conducted exit polls before the election took place, and we compared it to the results of them, and they turned out to be very accurate. So last year we held a press conference to display our data and to show the voter apathy and some of the patterns we saw. And Sheridan has some of that data for you if you're interested in seeing the data.
Yeah, if you want to see something, you can, we welcome you to come check it out, because we have a lot of useful information from the community itself.
So one of our flagship events that you may know us for is the Border Eyes Youth Symposium, where we gathered students from the borderland region, Las Cruces, El Paso, and Juarez to actively solve regional issues. So the purpose of this event was to create a policy on issues facing the borderland community. So we had 3 sections of our event. The border fair, where we gathered experts in healthcare, geopolitics, and education to speak on issues that they encounter in their daily lives in order to broaden the knowledge base of the youth that were attending. And so this broadened their knowledge and so that they could create more effective policy. The second section was the regional roundtables. So we gathered a few students from each region and placed them at one table, and they were able to share their local standpoints and issues that they see as pertinent. And so from that regional roundtable, they were able to get a regional perspective on how to solve these issues. And then lastly, we have the breakout sessions where the students divided into groups and work to create the actual policy. And we have policy advisors there to guide them on how to write it. And basically this event is a culmination of engaging in the community and broadening their knowledge base. So we were able to gauge about where the youth are in terms of their political engagement. And one thing we found is that they were so excited and were so passionate about these issues because they didn't realize they had the opportunity to express these views and to create change. So these are some pictures from our Borderlands events. We host them every spring. We've hosted it 3 times now. So this was earlier this year, in April and May. This was the year before, and us conducting a debrief after. So as I mentioned earlier in response to your question, one of the projects we posted are the teleconferences with Congressman O'Rourke. And the great thing about this event was we were able to allow the opportunity of the youth to directly interact with their local congressman, so they could ask them questions and have a discussion on issues. So we were bridging the gap of the apathy and students. So some insight that we gained through our events is a lot of the youth feel that they don't have the opportunity to engage. And a lot of it is giving them the chance to not only broaden their knowledge base, but to participate in the community. So another important thing that would be worth noting is to treat them as adults, because some of the problems we've encountered is a lot of people don't take us seriously because we're high school students. But the truth is, we're developing critical analysis at this stage. We do care about issues, we just don't have the opportunity. So a lot of it is treating them like adults because they do care. And if you give them the opportunity, they're going to make mistakes. We're all human, we're all going to do it, but they're going to learn through that process.
All right. Hi, my name is Iliana Flores. I'm a sophomore, and I'm going to talk to you about bridging the gap of apathy. So what is apathy? The textbook definition of apathy is a lack of interest or concern or enthusiasm. But when we talk about apathy in regards to politics or in regards to the community, it's a little bit different. It's about having a mindset that our individual voices are too small to be heard, or thinking that someone else will come along and make the change that you want to see for you, that someone else will come and make the impact that you want to see done for you, when in reality, our society and our government is based on we the people. So the responsibility to make that change falls on we the people. Why are we apathetic as a society? Why is it that often we're more likely to vote for who's going to win on American Idol or who's going to win America's Got Talent than for who's going to be our mayor or our senator or our president? It's because generally when we think of politics, we think negative. The first things that jump to our mind are things like corruption or division or maybe even confrontation. When politics can be that at its worst, but at its best, it can be an opportunity for change and for communication. And part of that communicating is communicating with groups you may not agree with. So it's about putting aside your personal preferences and opinions and working with other people who may not share the same views as you, or who may be a different race, a different gender, or a different age group. So it's very important that we involve the youth in that conversation. When you give us the opportunity to voice our concerns and show our perspective on issues, you're allowing us to make the impact that we want to see. And once you start that passion and that belief that you can make a change in someone, you carry that up from your middle school years to your high school years to into your adulthood. So you become an active and productive member of society because you believe that you can make a change. And you've had people in your community guide you and educate you on how you can do that productively. It's up to the adults in the society to have a positive attitude towards youth. Instead of maybe thinking that we're selfish or that we don't have any concern for what's going on in our community and on a national level, if you give us that opportunity, we're more likely to rise to the expectations. and rise to the occasion and show you that we do in fact care and that we are willing to put time and effort to make that change. It's especially important because a lot of times youth find politics intimidating. We look at the system on a local, on a state, and on a national level, and we don't really have a very deep comprehension of what that is. We have a very basic knowledge that we're provided in school, but beyond that, we don't have a very deep understanding. But when you provide us with knowledge about what it is to be involved and what it is to be a citizen, it really sparks that belief that we can make a difference, and the intimidation kind of fades out of the picture. And not only is the knowledge important, but again, it goes back to attitude. If you have a positive attitude towards us, we'll have a positive attitude towards the things that we can do, and towards working with people. And it really builds connections between the youth and the adults in the community. By adding youth to the equation, not only are you helping for a better today, but you're also preparing for a better tomorrow. As cliche as it might sound, we are the future. We're the people who, once we become adults, we're going to be involved in politics, we're going to be involved in our community. So if you teach us and you guide us on how the best way to do that, what the best way to do that is, then we'll be more productive members of society, and then we'll teach generations after us to do the same thing. Another thing that's kind of important to remember is that we are human. We are going to make mistakes, and at times we might fail. But instead of looking at failure as something that should end our involvement, it's something that instead of giving up on us, you should guide us. Give us your input. Give us your opinion. We want to know what we can do better. We want to work with you, and we want to improve. So instead of looking at failure as something negative, look at it as a outlet to improve. And then lastly, it's about letting us take charge of our own situation. If you give us the opportunity to come speak to and to come and present what we believe and just to be educated, we will take those opportunities and we will do the best we can to capitalize on the skills that we learn and use them to benefit the entirety of the community. So in essence, the way to bridge the gap of apathy is to communicate, to educate, and to empower both the young and the old. So as I pass you on to my colleague, I want you to ponder how various types of communication, like social media, can help allow for partnership between the youth and the adult mentors in society.
Hi guys, I'm Russell Steans. So today we're gonna talk or transition into social media and how we fill in the blank presents itself to members of the community, and how we're going to help hopefully incorporate work that we do into the neighborhood association, foundation, things that you guys do as well. So social media outreach, we utilize mostly Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, and YouTube to kind of branch out to the community in ways that aren't as traditional, to kind of branch out to the youth. And this is present in the next slide. It's actually obvious that 18 through 29-year-olds, this is the smallest age demographic from 18, are most prevalent in using technology since 2006. And you can also see on the rise are older people as well. So actually, in a recent study done by Common Sense Media, it was shown that people in their adulthood and also in the youth, they use social media and internet roughly the same, about 9 hours each. And so this shows that we can have an impact through social media, not only to the youth, but also to adults as well. And some of the ways that we've kind of had some positive feedback is just through donations made to the nonprofit organization, and those are obvious through our little donation banner back there. We've done projects with Southwest University in the past, as well as, well, this is just our borderized banner from last year because it was at Southwest University, but we've also worked with Hunt Foundation, Western Refining, Johnson Jewelers, and just other places that have seen that we have an impact in the community and that they want to work with us, and they see that we can really actually make a difference. Oh, yes, sir.
Your donors donated how much money?
So I'm not.
It's between $500 and $5,000.
Okay, so between $500 and $5,000.
The total?
Total, we've been doing.
Well, I can give you in the entire entirety of the past 3 years, we've gotten about $33,000 in donations.
Okay, so that's kind of a rough total. We kind of get donations as events come through, so we don't really have like a really I guess a good financial statement on our total since 2012, since the nonprofit was founded. But I know that we've been working with an organization called CREED, which is just a nonprofit for education, and they've donated some money to us recently so that we can actually go to an event called Tribute Fest in Austin, Texas. And this is just a conglomeration of politicians and just ideas and thinking about how we can help the community. And so we wanted to bring some knowledge back, learn from there, and kind of pass it on to the El Paso community.
Can I just say something about it? I would actually attended Texas Tribune Fest,
Okay,
I was a panelist there, City Representative Peter Schwartzman. The presentation that y'all had done previously there was exemplary. You had a lot of the delegates, almost all the delegates from El Paso that were there, in addition to other delegates from other communities around Texas, and everybody was very impressed with the amount of information and the depth that y'all went to in your presentations. So
Thank you, sir.
it was really, really wonderful to see that.
And we also we also focus a lot on borderland diversity. So at our last flagship event, which is called Board Rise, you can see the banner over there. Our last one was the 3rd annual Board Rise, and we actually reached out to middle schoolers from Juarez, Las Cruces, and the El Paso area, so that we could kind of get a more, I guess not as much of a localized perspective, kind of branch out and reach out to other locations as well. And this way, it's in that way that we can kind of facilitate a more inviting perspective, I think, from just more places in the borderland community. And it also kind of shows that we can become, I guess, a powerhouse of civic engagement. And this is kind of relates to our social media outreach, in that through social media we can kind of facilitate this outreach that I think a lot of organizations can't really.
Something before we start questions. We'd love to work with you all on multiple projects, and as Sheridan mentioned earlier, our bowling project. But something we just want to point out is we'd love to work with you, but not for you, or you're not working for us. Because something we've encountered with working with other organizations is they tend to take over our project, whether subconsciously or because they intend to organize it and take charge of it. But we want to establish this as a partnership, not overtaking the project.
Absolutely. So if you think that for example, I think Sheridan brought up the idea of like data. So in the past, our data for the 2016 election was actually relatively close. I think within 5% of like national data from the Huffington, when we were citing the Huffington Post. And so if you're interested in some of our data outreach and just information in your community, we can certainly help you with that. So that's one of the reasons why we're here.
And also, just to add to that, if you have any suggestions for us, any input on how we can improve our events or events we could host in the future, please let us know.
Of course.
We want to know what your opinion is, and we want your insight.
Okay, have you done any data on your personal opinions before you go out and collect your data?
Oh, so that's
okay,
one of the
going to this
important. Or you want
We engineer our questions to be very non-leading. Like we spent a month at least, if not longer, on developing our questions so that they weren't leading questions at all, and we weren't trying to get an answer out of people. But
That
rather
doesn't answer my question now.
So what's your question? Please repeat it.
Any data on your personal opinions before you go out into the field? to
No,
make
ma'am,
your
because our
collections?
personal opinions don't come into our polling at all. We don't, we stick to a script. We have a script.
It's a nonpartisan organization, so any opinions of our members are completely, if there are any opinions of our members, they're completely suppressed before any event that we hold or any public outreach that we
Has nothing to do with
Yeah.
politics.
Our main focus of our organization is youth outreach. We're trying to engage the youth in politics. Their perspective opinions have no meaning to us.
You're from what school?
Coronado High School.
Is there any other high schools?
So that's
are doing
something that
work right
I was
now?
gonna actually mention, and you brought it up as well. We're trying to, that's why we're here, actually. We're trying to reach out to other schools. One of like a future project that we're trying to work on is simply just getting members, youth in the community that are interested in politics, not necessarily like a specific like part of politics, just any part of politics that they're interested in, and we're trying to engage them in like a lot of our events. So a good example of that was for our polling, our exit polling last year, we had 178 members. Now, all of these members were from Coronado High School, but in the future, we'd like to implement members from other districts like YISD or just other districts in El Paso as well. So, yeah. Also, if you know of anybody that's interested, give them a business card. Yes, sir.
Do you all engage in voter registration?
No, sir, because actually, there are organizations that do that, we've worked with them in the past, but that's their huge kind of outreach is getting people registered, and of course there's the Motor Voter Act, which everyone who has a license can register to vote. And we found in our experience and research that that's not necessarily the problem, because there's a huge discrepancies between registered voters and voters.
Right.
So our goal is to get people engaged in not even just voting, but in like town hall meetings, stuff like that, and then actually going out to vote and actually expressing it.
Roger Michelle is working with Cesar Blanco, and they've got that initiative working with the youth to get them registered.
Yeah, the voter initiative.
I'm very impressed. I'm really very impressed with what you're doing. I missed the beginning of your presentation, and I have some questions about like, is this, did this start from the students, or was there an adult who guided you?
So this started from a group of students in around 2010, and it was entirely from the students' point of view. They wanted to engage in the community, have events where we can, participate and have political awareness. And we do have an advisor, Mr. Berglund, but our events are student-run. Our events are student-run, student-planned, and so this has risen from the youth level.
He just gives us the room to do it.
Yeah, pretty much. On some of your tables, if you don't have one, they're more outside. There's the blank, which is our newsletter.
Yes.
So if you want to find out, this is for the community. This is for you all, so you can get to familiarize yourself in our events. So if you're interested in picking up a copy, please do so.
And absolutely leave your email, and we'll start sending. We'll put you on the list to start sending out our monthly.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Also, all of our social media is posted back here, so if you have any of these social media platforms, we'd really appreciate developing your following. So we'll be posting about updates for events and just things that are happening within the organization. If you guys want to keep up with us, we'd really appreciate it.
And in terms of upcoming events, we're going to be hosting the 2nd Congressional District Democratic primary. We hope to also do the Republican primary in Las Cruces. So if any of you are interested in either attending an event, assisting the event, or just participating as a member of the community, please let us know.
Oh yeah, if you'd like to take a picture of this or anything.
Please.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good job.